Evanescence frontwoman Amy Lee sat down with alternative press to help promote the release of their latest album, The Bitter Truth. During the interview, Lee discussed how their original record label Wind Up said they would not release the band's debut album Fallen unless they agreed to add a male voice to Bring Me to Life in order to make it more radio friendly. As we know now, 12 Stone's vocalist Paul McCoy ended up being the guest vocalist on the track, but the story of how it all went down is pretty interesting. Lee said, "I was really against having any male vocal in our music. That was really hard, and it was an idea that came from the label, and it suddenly all became about Bring Me to Life. They decided that was the song. I actually didn't think that should be our first single. I wanted it to be Going Under. They came up with this idea about having something in there that would be familiar to listeners in order to get us on the radio. I didn't really understand what that meant. I was really inspired by artists that were unique. Like, what's great about artists like Nirvana, Soundgarden, and Bjork was that there was nothing else really like them. And that, to me, was the key ingredient in something that I believed, and still believe, that we have. And in my head, the more you try and make it familiar, the more you're taking away from our true power. The original fight was that the label wanted us to hold auditions and bring somebody into the band full-time to sing on most of the songs and make it a thing. Try to be the female Linkin Park. And I was like, I'll think about it for like an hour. And then we called them back and I was like, we can't do that. It's not gonna happen. I'd rather start over. It's just not who we are. And I don't want that. And then they took away our funding and I moved back in with my parents. And it was hard after all the buildup. We got signed, I quit school, moved to LA, and it's like, no, actually we're coming home. We didn't get to actually do it. It was hard, but in my heart it was broken. But I knew that it was better than the alternative. It wasn't totally selling my soul. And then a few weeks later, we got a call, and they kind of came around to a compromise and decided, hey, we have a cool movie placement thing with this Daredevil deal, and we pitched it to him as this male-female thing because there's a fight scene, and that's kind of what scored it. So now there's a reason, and it's only got to be one song. It doesn't have to be your whole identity changing. That made it okay for me. I tried one last time. I was like, can we just make the first single Going Under first and then do that? I was just really concerned that people would hear that sound, like this is the band, and expect it to always be that. And it was not who we were. I hate that. I hate it when you hear a first single from a band and you think they're one thing, and then you hear the rest of the album and it's like, oh, that's not what I thought it was. You just did that to get me in and you tricked me. But I loved the song and Paul was really sweet. And it took some sacrifice for him to be a guest vocalist on the song. He didn't realize because it skyrocketed in a way that sort of overshadowed what he was trying to do. So I feel for him. And I don't always want to talk about it like I don't like his contributions. I love him. We were just kids in a crazy moment in time. Fallen would later go on to sell over 17 million copies and win 2 Grammy Awards for Best Rock Performance for Bring Me to Life. Be sure you grab their latest album, The Bitter Truth, which just arrived on March 26 via BMG. It is their first album of original music in over 10 years. And that is all the news that we have for today. So if you haven't already, please be sure to subscribe. That way you get all the latest news on your favorite musicians here on Rockfeed.